We just finished his haircut. Of course, we had to get him fresh and styled before we went into the segment of the beard. Now, we're going to the beard. It's really important on how you prep the beard, okay? Because as you see, his hair on his beard is curly. Now, that's one of the main characteristics of having a bigger beard. You'll notice that whoever has more straighter hair, it can look more messy. The curlier the hair, the easier it is to shape and create a new shape because it kind of holds shape a lot better than the hair being straight and straggly. Now, with that being said, every curly hair has a different pattern. Yes, generally is the same, but if you look at it more on an individual level, certain areas could curl more than the others. So the first thing that I'm going to do before I start shaping out his beard is I'm going to pick it and I'm going to wet the hair. By wetting the hair, I'm allowing it to reset and to curl back up in its natural form. This is going to eliminate any areas that were pressed while he was sleeping, or if he was laying down, or just being pressed throughout the day. We want to make sure that we give him the most natural shape possible. And the reason for that is strictly for the longevity of the style that you're giving it. If we style the beard and the hair, we shape it in a way where it's not sitting in its natural form, when it does go back to its natural form, you're not going to get the shape that we left off when we were styling it. So if we style it with it sitting the way that it naturally would, that style is going to last a very long time. The water is going to put it in a flexible state for change. And I'm also going to add a little bit of the sea salt spray, and that's going to give it a little bit of a gentle hold as I'm blow drying the beard. Gentle hold because I still want to be able to pick through that beard, and I don't want it to be hard and stiff yet. We will do that closer to the end as we're detailing it, but for now we're just getting the natural shape of the beard. When I'm blow drying it, I do want to make sure that I'm not changing that shape. I'm just blow drying on a natural level so that it kind of keeps that shape. I don't want to use the brush and the bristles to go in to give it a new shape. Now we're only going to start working on the beard once it's fully dry. We don't want it to be wet at all. And we can only start working on the beard where we can freely run the pick or the comb through the beard without it feeling that it's tangled. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to use my Boost FX clipper with a number 2 guard. And I like this clipper a lot because it has a fade blade, and the fade blade is very accurate on taking off bulk. It doesn't push the hair and it gives you a very clean shape. So with a number 2, I'm just gonna glide over the surface of the beard to take off all the areas that are sticking out. I'm going to start with a light pressure, and I'm going to feel the vibration of the hair cutting off and hearing the sound of it cutting off. Of course, with the initial pass, you want to be very gentle, just on the surface of the beard, not pushing, not going into the contour of the beard. And if it's not effective, then I'm going to use a little bit more pressure, and you should hear a little bit more hair cut. You want to build up this pressure gradually, because the more pressure I put down, the more that it's going to cut. Now this is where the silhouette is really important. If you notice, I'm cutting the beard from behind him. And the reason for this angle is because I'm trying to see how much hair is going to be coming off from the sides of his face. You can get the same while looking in front. And this is an angle that's very important to look at, whether from the front or the back, especially from the front, because you want to detail it as based on what he's going to see in the mirror. He's not going to see the side of his beard. He's not going to see the back of his head. He's going to see exactly what's in the front. And the first thing he's going to notice is that there's going to be a lot of flyaways near the sides. So the number 2 guard is a longer guard that I can use to take off some of that bulk. And then afterwards, I'm going to take off the guard and fine tune that just a little bit more on those little hairs that I wasn't able to get before. Now remember, Damien didn't want a lot of the hair off on his beard. He's still keeping a relatively big beard. So the most that I'm cutting off is whatever is hanging, pushing out too far from his face. That's gonna, if it's too bushy on the cheeks, it's gonna make his face appear wider than it is. This is actually gonna help slim down his face and give him more of a chiseled look. I'm always combing out the hair to its natural form because the vibrations of the clippers could make the hairs curl back in. So if you notice, I'm very active in the way that I'm combing the beard, and I'm always looking at those details from the side, looking at that silhouette that I explained to you guys earlier. All right, now with my 1.5 guard, I'm gonna trim the mustache. You don't keep hair hanging over your lip, like you don't try to twist this or anything, do you?
No, man.
No, it's just long right now, right?
It's
Okay,
very long
okay,
right now.
perfect. So with the 1.5, I'm gonna go against the grain. Stretch your lip, please. All right, now that we have everything trimmed, now we can start to detail the lineup area and outline his jawline on the sides over here. As you can see, one of the key tips is that we don't want to bring the beard line too low. We want to keep it as high as possible because it's going to be easier for maintenance. The lower that you go with the beard, the more maintenance that he's going to need. So we do want to keep it as high as possible and to give him that while we're giving him that outline. So this is going to be my Boost outliner. Boost FX outliner that from Babyliss Pro that we're going to be using to detail his beard. Now a good tip to blend in that beard is right at the top. I'm going to do a flick down, coming towards out. That's going to give a light blend to the beard. And just using my corners to do the blend, the rest of the blend over here. Notice my hand position on how I'm keeping stability. I always have a piece of my finger touching the skin or having contact with the head. That's where my stability is going to come from. Very rarely will I detail and do a lineup without anything being placed on his skin. So for example, my left middle finger is kind of behind his ear, anchored in. This is going to allow me to ease in with a gentle pressure and have a lot of control. After I make my line, I shave away what we don't need before I detail further. Always combing the hair in its natural form position. You don't want to comb the hair in a direction that doesn't normally grow. You want to respect the growth pattern and comb the hair in the direction that it grows so that it can always stay in that way. After every time he wets his hair or after every time he showers, the beard is going to reset in the same way that it grows. With his mustache, we're just gonna outline the shape, the natural shape of his lip. We're not pushing it in, just so that the hair is not hanging over his lip and easier for him when he's eating food and keeping groomed. This part of the mustache is what really makes a mustache look messy. You could have a really big mustache, but as long as you kind of keep it groomed that's hanging over your lip, it's gonna look neat and it's gonna look more presentable. Same technique here. I have a point of contact somewhere on his face that I'm gonna use for stability. This is gonna allow me to work in this tight space very comfortably. And more importantly, very accurately. And I'm just going to gently give a light line up near the top of his mustache here. I'm just going to fine tune any flyaways that I'm seeing. You'll notice that throughout the process, I'm always fine tuning this aspect of his beard. And it's all these little hairs that are sticking out and not laying flush with the beard. These are the little hairs that I want to take off with my liner. Okay, now we have one side. Now, mind you guys, this is like a rough draft that I create with my outliner. The detailing is going to come in when I use my razor blade. So that's why certain areas don't look as sharp right now. Now this is a pro tip. If you go too sharp with your outliner, when you go to blade it, you're going to push the blade down. So you always want to keep it a little bit higher than what you want. And what we're doing actually is just making the blading process easier. So what I'm going to do later is that I'm going to foil shave away the little hairs that are already taken away that I know for sure is not part of the detailing. Now, when I go with my razor blade, it takes a lot of blade irritation away because a lot of it has already been shaved away with my screen shaver or my foil shaver, and I'm only going to detail the little hairs that I have left. That is how you keep the beard as high as possible without pushing it down while you're detailing. So same thing on the other side here. I always like to start off with the jawline on the side, keeping it as far out as possible. Now, you kind of have an idea of where you're going to start and finish because the farthest in is obviously going to be the start of here, and most beards actually come and they swoop out. Now, you want to keep that as far out as possible because the more that you go in, the more that you cut away, the more regrowth you're going to have. For those who have beards, you'll know that the beards, they grow back very quickly. So if you go in too much with your lineup, and in just a few days, you're going to see all that you shaved away. The less that you shave away to create that sharp line, the longer that beard lineup is going to last. Same thing over here. I'm going to use the point of my finger for stability and just gently push the hair down towards close to where you want that line to sit. So for example, just to give you guys a good visual, my blading is probably going to come up to around here at the top of my comb. And with what I'm doing with the outliner, I'm not going to bring it to where I want to set it, but close to where I'm going to set it. And the rest I'm going to detail with the blade. And that's always going to ensure that the lineup stays as high as possible. And same thing with with my outliner, I'm going to fine tune those little hairs that are sticking out. For the little hairs that you're not be able to get with the guard, I'm just going to use a clipper over comb technique and cut off just those little hairs. Now the only way I was able to see that is by looking at the silhouette from the side, and I saw some longer hairs sticking away. So that's a prime example of how looking at the silhouette from different angles allows you to see different things. If I were to look at him right from the front, everything looks great. But from the side, I can see that there's certain hairs that are sticking out that shouldn't be there. These are the details that's going to set you guys apart from other barbers. Now I'm putting on the headrest and I'm bumping his chair to the highest setting. And the reason why I want to do this is because I almost want to be as eye level as possible on where I'm going to be detailing on the bottom. We don't want Damien to lift his head too high as I'm detailing, and we don't want it too low as we're detailing. We want it to be almost as neutral as possible because that's how he's going to be walking around. If we detail him with his head facing up, he's not going to be walking around like that all the time. So it's not in your best interest to detail that way, but it is in our best interest to detail in a way that he's mostly going to be, which is walking and looking straight. Before I do that, I'm just going to reset that hair a little bit just to make sure that everything is hanging out properly. And when I start my shaping process, I'm going to start in the middle and I'm going to create my first guideline on the shape that we're going to do. As you can see, his hair is a little bit softer right in the middle. So we want to create that as the longest point. Usually beards, if they want to come to a point, even if it's square, it's always slightly longer in the front. And it can also be a little bit more spaced out in this area as well. So before I detail, I want to get the strongest shape that I can in the longest area, so then I know how much to match on the sides and to make it balanced and symmetrical. So my technique is the same. I'm always using a place for stability. As you see here, I'm using my fingers on his chest to elevate the clipper, and this way it's going to give me a very steady hand while I'm detailing his beard. Turn up a little bit more. Just like the silhouette, I know we're going to do majority of the detailing with his chin neutral, but for the sake of the silhouette, he's also not going to be neutrally like that 100% of the time. He is going to be looking up, down. So with that being said, we're also going to detail the beard as he lifts it up higher and lower, but majority of the setting is going to be in his neutral position. I'm always combing out the hair. The curlier the hair is, the more that you have to comb it out because the vibrations will always set it back and make it curl and shiver and shrivel in. And of course, you're always going to use your mirror to make sure that you have a balanced shape. Now after we get the length and the shape that we want with the beard, the next one is that we want to make sure that the line on the bottom matches where the beard is ending off. It's very important that that line is exactly in line with the level of the beard, or else the line is not going to be sharp, the neck is not going to look clean. So now that I have my guideline of where the beard's going to sit, I can lean his head, I can make the headrest a little bit lower, and he can lean back a little bit more, and now expose the neck, and I'll know exactly where to put my line on the bottom. Yeah, for the bottom of the beard, I'm going to be using my Lithium FX outliners, and this is a great tool for working under the neck because it's very soft on the skin, but it also cuts the hair in a very blunt way, so you kind of get the best of both worlds. I'm always going to start in the middle. Whenever I do any lineup, especially in the front hairline or the beard, I always start in the middle, and I'm always going to go to the higher side first. There's not everyone's hair or hairline is always going to grow symmetrically. One area is always going to be higher or lower, and that's our job as a barber, to give them that symmetry, give them something that they don't have. So looking at him, I can see that from his previous lineup or how his hair grows, it's a little bit higher on his left side or right side. So I'm going to start with the middle, move on to the higher side, then we know exactly how much to take off on the lower side. This is going to eliminate you taking off the beard too high, and it's going to keep it more control for you to get that line clean. To make that line, I'm just following that shape of what I created with my clipper and going right into where that shape is taking us. It's easier if you do, one may ask, how come you just don't do this right at the beginning with the liner? And the reason for that is because the liner, usually the clipper takes off the hair in a more efficient way and it's cleaner. If you were to do this with the liner from the beginning, it would take you a very long time. And because most of the bulk is taken off and the general shape is there, I can now fine tune that shape with my outliner, and there's a lot less hair that the outliner has to work with because a lot of the bulk has already been removed. Now that we have one side, now we can match the other side and know exactly how much to take off, starting from the middle and working our way to the left side, his right side. You see my technique doesn't change. I always have my finger anchored somewhere. This allows me to work a lot more efficiently and have more confidence in my strokes. So for my final detailing on the shape, I'm just going to use my long shears and just cut off a little bit of those little hairs that you might be afraid to get from the clipper or the trimmer, simply because we're at the finishing of the shape. So this gives you another level of detail. You can catch those little fine pieces that you might have missed. This is when I'm really looking at the silhouette from all angles. So as you can see, I've already finished my rough detailing of the shape. I got all the shape in. I did my line work. I lined up his mustache. We're getting ready for the blade work. But before the blade work, we're just going to take off all that stubble to make the blade work easier. And we're going to use our UV foil shaver from Babyliss Pro. I'm going to use the single foil shaver because it gives me a lot of visibility and a lot more control. Since the surface area is a lot smaller, this is perfect for working around. This is perfect for shaving off those areas that we took away earlier, those little hairs that we don't need. This extra step is really going to help with the overall results. The reason why is because you're limiting as much as blade work as possible, and that's always going to eliminate irritation and redness. So by me going in with the foil shaver, now I have very little to blade, whereas if you didn't do this and you just relied more on your blade, there's more chance of skin irritation from your razor blade. The UV foil helps you to shave time and keep the integrity of the skin and only detail what you need.